My name is Faith Mercer. I am 34 years old. For as long as I can remember, my family had a label for everyone. My sister Jolene was the pretty one. My brother Caleb was the smart one. And me, I was the ugly one, in front of neighbors, teachers, anyone who would listen. Last July, at our family's annual reunion, my Aunt Patricia introduced me to a woman I had never seen before. She said, and I quote, "This is the one we don't talk about." I was standing right there, 34 years old, in front of 40 family members. But here is what none of them knew. That woman was not a random guest. And what she did next changed everything about the way my family sees me. Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories, where real emotions meet life-changing moments. If you have ever been the one your family overlooked, this story is for you. Drop a comment telling me your family label. I read every single one. And if you are new here, hit subscribe so you never miss a story. I was 6 the first time I heard it. Jolene was 8. It was a Sunday in June, and my mother was sewing matching dresses for every girl in the family. My cousins, my sister, even my aunt's stepdaughter who had been part of the family for exactly 4 months. Everyone got a dress, except me. Jolene needs something nice, my mother said when I asked. She photographs well. I got Jolene's hand-me-down from Easter. A yellow dress with a stain on the collar that my mother did not bother to treat because she said it would not show up in pictures. She was right. I was not in any of the pictures. That afternoon, we drove to my grandmother's house for a church potluck. I remember standing on the lawn in my stained dress while my Aunt Patricia held Jolene's face in both hands and said, "This one is going to break hearts." Then she looked at me, tilted her head, turned to a neighbor and said, "That one got the Mercer nose. Poor thing." My mother heard it. She was standing 4 feet away. She did not correct Patricia. She did not say, "That is not kind." She laughed. A short, soft laugh, like Patricia had said something everyone already knew. I stood there in the yellow dress, 6 years old. I did not know the word ugly was a verdict. I thought it was something you could wash off, like the stain on my collar. Something temporary. It was not temporary. My mother, I would learn many years later, had studied architecture for 1 year at the community college before she got pregnant with Jolene at 19. She dropped out, married my father, and never drew another building again. But I did not know that yet. All I knew was that my sister got a new dress and I got a label. The label worked like a sorting system. Once it was in place, everything else organized itself around it. School photos. Every fall, the order forms came home. My mother ordered a full portrait package for Jolene, 8 by 10 glossy, framed living room wall. For me, she checked the box for wallet size, $2.50. The prints went into a kitchen drawer with expired coupons and dead batteries. Birthdays. Jolene got theme parties, princess party at 7, spa party at 10, pool party at 12, with a DJ. My birthday was 3 weeks after my brother Caleb's. Every year my mother combined them. "It just makes sense," she said. The cake always said, "Happy birthday Caleb," with my name squeezed underneath in smaller frosting letters, like an afterthought someone had caught at the last minute. Christmas morning. Jolene opened boxes of carefully chosen outfits, coordinated sets, shoes that matched, a coat with a faux fur collar the year she turned 14. I got books. "You like reading, right?" my mother would say, not as a question, but as an instruction. "Here is what you are. Here is what you get." My brother Caleb played his part too. The smart one. He accepted his label and ran with it, straight out of the house at 17, early admission to a state school 400 miles away. He was neither cruel to me nor kind. He was absent. And absence, I learned, is its own form of agreement. A label is not a word. It is a permission slip. It tells everyone around you exactly how much space you are allowed to take up, how much attention you deserve, how much effort you are worth. My family wrote that permission slip when I was 6, and every year after that, they renewed it. If you want to know how a family really sees you, count the photographs. Our living room had 14 framed photos on the wall. My mother arranged them herself, gallery style, centered above the sofa. Jolene appeared in all 14. My brother appeared in 6. I appeared in 3. In the first one, I was partially hidden behind a cousin at a 4th of July picnic. In the second, my face was half cut by the frame's edge, like whoever mounted it did not notice me sliding out of view. In the third, I was 5, squinting into the sun, holding a balloon. That one stayed up because the balloon was red and matched the sofa cushions. The arrangement was not accidental. Every family photo session, my mother directed us like a set designer. Jolene, front and center. Caleb, left side. Faith, move back a little. And I did. Every time. 1 step back, 2 steps back. Until I was furniture. At Jolene's high school graduation, my mother took 47 photos. I know because I saw the camera roll when she left her phone on the kitchen counter. 47. Different angles, different poses, some candid, some staged. At my graduation, 2 years later, she took one photo. I was holding my diploma. I graduated with honors. The ceremony was 2 hours long. 1 photo. That summer, I started carrying a disposable camera. The yellow Kodak kind, 27 exposures. I took photos of myself at milestones. My first apartment. My first drafting table. The day I passed my licensing exam. I kept them in a shoebox under my bed. When no one takes your picture, you learn to become your own witness. You learn that if you do not document yourself, you disappear. And I had been disappearing for a long time. I left home at 18. Scholarship to State University. Architecture program. My mother's reaction landed like every other verdict she had ever delivered. Swift. Dismissive. Final. Architecture? That is not really a career for someone like you. She said, someone like you, the way she said everything about me, with a slight tilt of her chin, half pity, half correction. I did not know then that she had studied architecture herself. 1 year at the community college before Jolene arrived and the textbooks went into a box in the attic. I did not know that every time I said the word architecture, something inside her tightened. That information would come later. And when it did, it would explain a great deal. My father drove me to campus. 3.5 hours on I-81, windows down, radio off. He was not a man who filled silence with words. He had spent 20 years in a house where Diane's voice was the only one that counted, and the habit of quiet had calcified into something permanent. But when he pulled up to the dormitory and set my suitcase on the curb, he said something I have carried with me for 16 years. Build something they cannot ignore. 6 words, the only directive he ever gave me. I hugged him. He held on longer than he usually did. Then he got in the car and drove away. And I did not see him again until Thanksgiving. That first night, I taped my shoebox photos on the dorm wall. My roommate, a girl from Baltimore named Tara, looked at them and asked about my family. What I said, they are fine. What I meant, I just drove 3.5 hours to get away from them, and it is the first time I have been able to breathe in 18 years. I built a career the way you restore a building, 1 layer at a time, starting with the foundation. Junior year, I landed an internship at the State Historic Preservation Office. Unpaid. I worked nights at a diner called Rosie's near campus. Eggs and coffee from 6 in the evening to 2 in the morning, then up at 7 for the preservation office. The tips were bad. The diner smelled like old grease. But the preservation office had a library with files on every historic structure in the state, and I read them all. My first real project came at 25. A 1920s Carnegie Library in a dying mill town in western Pennsylvania. The roof had collapsed. The town council voted to demolish it. I wrote a 32-page proposal arguing for restoration. They gave me 6 months and a budget that would not have covered the cost of the demolition they originally planned. I made it work. Reclaimed lumber. Volunteer labor from the local high school shop class. I slept in my car 3 nights because the nearest motel was 40 miles away and I could not afford the gas. The library reopened on a Saturday in October. The town voted to name the reading room after me. I was 26. By 28, I had my own studio. 3 people, including me. We specialized in courthouses, churches, post offices, the bones of small towns that everyone else had given up on. By 32, a courthouse restoration in West Virginia won a state preservation award. Regional architecture journals wrote about us, then national ones. My family did not know. I had stopped sharing after the Thanksgiving when I mentioned my first published article, and my mother said, "That is nice, honey. Jolene just closed on a 4-bedroom. I built a career in silence. Not because I wanted to hide, because no one ever asked. I was 16 the first time I understood my mother. We had a half day at school and I came home early. The house was quiet. My mother was at work, Jolene at cheerleading practice, Caleb at robotics club. I went to the attic to look for a box of old encyclopedias my father said was up there. I needed them for a history project. The attic smelled like dust and mothballs. Boxes everywhere, labeled in my mother's handwriting. Holiday decorations, baby clothes, tax returns, and one box, pushed to the far corner, labeled simply, Diane, College. I opened it. Inside was a sketchbook. Green cover, spiral bound, the kind you buy at an art supply store. I flipped through it. Buildings. Dozens of buildings. Drawn in pencil, then traced in ink. Floor plans on one page, elevations on the next. A Victorian house with a wraparound porch. A downtown storefront with arched windows. A church steeple with handwritten notes about load-bearing walls and roof pitch. They were good drawings. Not student good. Good. The kind of drawings that showed someone who understood not just how buildings looked, but how they stood up. My mother had been an architecture student. My mother had talent. My mother had dropped out at 19 because she got pregnant with my sister and married my father, and never drew another building for the rest of her life. I sat on the attic floor for a long time. The dust particles floated in the light from the window. I looked at her drawings and I understood something I could not have articulated then, but can now. Every time I talked about architecture, every time I brought home a good grade in my drafting class, every time I said the word design at the dinner table, my mother did not see a daughter. She saw a mirror she could not bear to look into. I put the sketchbook back. I never told her I found it. You would think that leaving home fixes things. That distance and time and a career you built with your own hands would rewrite the story. But families have long memories and short attention spans. They remember the label. They forget to look at who you became. Thanksgiving, 2 years before the reunion. I drove 4 hours to my parents' house because my father asked me to come. He always asked. My mother never did. Jolene was there, holding court in the kitchen. She and her husband had just renovated their kitchen, quartz countertops, a farmhouse sink, subway tile backsplash. My mother was running her hand across the countertop like she was petting a thoroughbred. Jolene, this is just gorgeous. You have always had such taste. I sat at the table with my coffee. When there was a pause, I mentioned that a courthouse project I had led in West Virginia had won a state preservation award. Silence. 2 full seconds of nothing. Then my mother. That is nice. Can you pass the cranberries? Jolene, leaning against her quartz countertop. Is that like flipping houses? I said no, not exactly. She tilted her head. Well, it sounds like a hobby. After dinner, I helped with the dishes. My mother was at the sink. Aunt Patricia was drying. They thought I was in the other room. But I was right behind them, reaching for a towel. My mother said to Patricia, in the voice she used when she thought she was being discreet, "At least she is keeping busy. I just wish she would do something about..." And then she made a gesture. She waved her hand in front of her own face. She did not even say the word anymore. She just gestured. And Patricia laughed. I gripped the dish towel. I did not turn around. I finished the dishes, and I drove home 4 hours in the dark. 6 months after that Thanksgiving, my father had a stroke. A minor one, the doctors said. He lost some mobility on his left side, but kept his speech. He was lucky. I drove 4 hours to the hospital the night it happened. When I walked into his room, my mother and Jolene were already there. My mother looked up. "Oh, you came." Not warmth. Surprise. Like I had showed up to a party I was not invited to. I stayed 3 days. While my father recovered, I helped organize his home office, filing insurance papers, finding his medication list, clearing out the desk drawers. That is when I found it. Bottom drawer. A manila folder, thick, held together with a rubber band. I pulled it out. Inside, articles. Every one of them about me. Press clippings from small-town newspapers, printouts from architecture blogs I had never heard of, award announcements, a scanned copy of the article from the West Virginia Preservation Journal, a photograph of the restored library. He had printed it on regular paper from his home computer, slightly pixelated, the colors a little too warm. The folder spanned 8 years. He had been collecting them since my first published project. Some of the blog printouts had URLs so long they wrapped across 3 lines of text, which meant he had sat at his slow desktop computer and typed them in character by character. He never told my mother. He never shared them with anyone. He just kept them, in the bottom drawer, under his tax returns. I sat on the floor of his office with the folder in my lap. I did not cry. I just sat there, holding the weight of 8 years of silent witness. Later, my father saw me standing in the doorway. He looked at the folder in my hands. He did not speak. He nodded. Once. My father never said the words, but he kept the receipts. July came with the kind of heat that turns the air visible. Shimmering waves rising off asphalt, cicadas sawing through the afternoon, and the annual Mercer family reunion, held every year at my grandmother's house. My grandmother passed 3 years ago. My mother inherited the house and insisted on keeping the reunion tradition alive. Not because she loved tradition, because she loved having a stage. I had not attended in 2 years. This year, I went for my father. His stroke had slowed him. He walked with a cane now, and his left hand curled slightly when he was tired. He still drove himself to the barber every 2 weeks. He still read the newspaper on the porch. But something in his face had shifted. A tiredness that had nothing to do with his body. He asked me to come. I said yes. Meanwhile, in my work life, something had been developing for 3 months. Nora Whitfield, the senior features editor at American Preservation magazine, had been emailing me about a profile. She was writing a multi-part series on preservation architects working in rural America. She wanted me as the centerpiece. We exchanged emails about logistics. Which projects to photograph, which town officials to interview, when to schedule the shoot. Professional, measured, the kind of communication I am most comfortable with. In one email, I mentioned I would be in Hadley over the weekend for a family gathering. I told her the town had a restored 1890s train depot worth seeing. If you are ever in the area, I wrote, I might just do that, she wrote back. I did not think much of it. People say they will stop by, and then they do not. That is how the world works. You make loose plans, and then life happens, and the loose plans drift away like smoke. I invited her to see a building. I did not invite her to see my family. I pulled into the gravel driveway at noon. The yard was already full. Pickup trucks, minivans, a couple of sedans with out-of-state plates. Folding tables stretched across the grass with checkered tablecloths clipped at the corners. Coolers lined the fence. Smoke rose from the grill where my uncle's charcoal had been going since morning. I sat in my car for 3 minutes. I counted my breaths. In for 4, out for 6. A technique I learned from a therapist I saw twice in my 20s before my insurance changed. Then I got out and walked in. The greetings told the story. Jolene arrived with her husband and 2 kids. Hugs. Squeals. Jolene, you look amazing. My mother held Jolene's youngest on her hip and beamed. I walked in. Nods. Hey, Faith. Oh, hi. Uncle Ray, leaning against the fence with a lemonade. Good to see you, Faith. He said it like he meant it. Aunt Patricia did not look up from the potato salad she was arranging on a folding table. She was wearing a visor and talking to a cousin about someone's divorce. My mother was holding court at the main table. She saw me, paused. Oh, Faith, You made it. I was not sure you were coming." She said it with a little lift of surprise, performative, like she was welcoming a neighbor who had wandered in by mistake. I found my father in a lawn chair near the edge of the yard, under the big oak, away from the noise. He had his cane leaning against the armrest and a glass of water on the ground beside him. I sat in the empty chair next to his. He squeezed my hand. No words needed. Near the entrance, there was a table with pre-written name tags. Everyone had one. Except me. There was a blank tag and a marker. I wrote my own. 42 people at that reunion. I was the only one who had to write her own name. My mother had arranged seating for the main table, place cards in her handwriting, neat cursive on folded cardstock. Diane, Gerald, Jolene, Marcus, Jolene's husband, Patricia, Ray. I walked the length of the table, checked every card. My name was not there. It was not at the second table either, or the third. I was expected to find a spot at the folding chairs, the overflow seating, the table where the children sat, legs swinging, ketchup on their fingers. So I sat there, between a 7-year-old named Bryson who was building a tower out of chips and a 10-year-old girl playing a game on her mother's phone. From the kids' table, I could see the main table clearly. Jolene's husband Marcus was talking about their new vacation property. 3 bedrooms, right on the lake. We got it for under 4. My mother leaned forward, nodding, invested, proud. Jolene scrolled her phone, occasionally looking up to add a detail. A cousin I barely recognized approached me. "So what do you do again?" Before I could answer, Aunt Patricia's voice carried across the yard. "She does something with old buildings, fixing them up or something." She waved her hand, the same hand gesture my mother used for my face. "I am an architect," I said. "Patricia." Right. Like on those home shows." "Not exactly." My mother, from the main table, not even turning around. "Jolene, tell everyone about the beach house." I ate in silence. Potato salad, a hamburger that was slightly pink in the middle, a cup of lemonade that tasted like it had been mixed with too much water. I watched the dynamics I had been watching for 34 years. The same choreography, the same roles, the same script. I had been watching this performance my entire life. What I did not know was that someone else was about to watch it too. If you have ever sat at the kids' table while the rest of your family pretended you did not exist, I see you. That invisible feeling? It does not mean you are invisible. It means they stopped looking. If this story is hitting close to home, drop a like. It helps more people find stories like this. Now let me tell you what happened next. After lunch, the relatives drifted into the living room. Someone pulled out the photo albums, 3 thick binders with leather covers and plastic sleeves that crackled when you turned the pages. "Remember when?" became the chorus of the next hour. "Remember when Jolene won the Junior Miss pageant? Remember when Caleb got into the science fair regionals? Remember when we all drove to the shore and Jolene wore that little sailor outfit?" I stood in the doorway and watched. Album after album. Pages of Jolene's pageants, Caleb's award ceremonies, family vacations where everyone smiled into the same camera. I counted. Across 3 albums and roughly 200 photographs, I appeared in 4. In the first one, I was partially hidden behind a taller cousin at a barbecue. In the second, I was standing at the far edge of a group shot, my body angled away from the camera like I was already leaving. In the third, someone's thumb covered half my face, and in the fourth, the one I kept coming back to, I was 10 years old, standing behind a potted plant in a hand-me-down dress, and no one in the frame was looking at me. No one noticed. No one said, "Where is Faith in these?" No one flipped through 200 photos and realized that a member of their family had been systematically cropped out of the record. "Jolene was such a beautiful child," Patricia said, tracing a finger over a pageant photo. "She really was," my mother agreed. I reached into the album. Carefully, so no one saw, I slid the photo of me at 10, the one behind the plant, out of the plastic sleeve. I put it in my back pocket. 4 photos in 34 years, and in every single one, I was being erased. I needed air, or quiet, or both. I slipped away from the living room and walked down the hallway to my grandmother's old study. It had been converted into a storage room after she died. Boxes stacked on the desk, winter coats hanging from the curtain rod, a sewing machine gathering dust in the corner. On the shelf above the desk, I spotted a box labeled in my father's handwriting, "Family, to sort." I pulled it down. It was heavy. Inside, decades of loose photos, holiday cards, church bulletins, a few yellowed envelopes. I was not looking for anything. I was hiding. But what I found stopped me. A stack of photographs from my college graduation. 12 years old, slightly faded, printed on glossy paper. The kind you pick up from a 1-hour photo lab. There were 15 of them. My mother had taken one photo at my graduation. I knew this because I had counted. But my father had taken 15. Different angles. Me walking across the stage, me holding my diploma, me standing in the sun with my cap tilted, squinting, grinning, me with my roommate Tara, arms around each other, me alone, looking directly at the camera, my face open and unguarded. He used a disposable camera, the yellow Kodak kind. The same kind I started carrying that same year. The photos were never printed for the wall, never shared, never shown to my mother. They sat in this box for 12 years. I held one up. Me at 22, in my cap and gown, beaming. I was not ugly. I was beaming. On the photo envelope, in my father's handwriting, "Faith's Big Day." I sat in that dusty room and held 15 photographs my father took of the daughter my mother pretended did not graduate. 15. He took 15. I put the graduation photos in my back pocket, next to the one of me at 10 behind the plant. My pockets were getting full. I smoothed my shirt, took a breath, walked back out to the yard. The afternoon sun had softened into that golden stretch before evening. Kids were running through the sprinkler. The grill was cooling. Someone had turned on a Bluetooth speaker playing country music too loud for anyone over 50. A car I did not recognize pulled into the driveway. A silver sedan, out-of-state plates. The driver's side door opened and a woman stepped out. She was about 50, lean, dressed in a way that did not match the reunion. A linen blazer over a simple white shirt, dark slacks, a leather portfolio bag slung over one shoulder. She looked around the yard the way you look at a room you were not expecting to walk into. It was Nora Whitfield. She had driven 90 minutes from her hotel. She spotted me near the oak tree and walked over. "Faith? You actually came. I told you I was going to be here." "You did." She looked around again. "I wanted to see the train depot, but also, I brought the layout proofs for the feature. I thought we could go over them. Now? If this is a bad time, I can come back." I looked at the yard. My mother rearranging the dessert table. Jolene taking a selfie with 3 cousins. Patricia refilling her drink. "It is always a bad time here," I said. "Come on." I led her to the kids' table. We sat down. She opened her leather portfolio and spread out printed photos of my completed projects. Full color, high resolution, the courthouse, the library, the church in Ohio. She sat at the kids' table with me, the first person who ever chose to. It took Aunt Patricia about 12 minutes to notice. She had a radar for anything that deviated from the script, and a well-dressed stranger sitting at the kids' table with printed photographs was a significant deviation. She walked over, visor pushed back on her head, drink in one hand, smile on full display. "Well, hello. Are you a friend of someone's?" I started to speak. "Aunt Patricia, this is Nora. She is..." Patricia did not let me finish. She turned to Nora, tilted her head, and delivered the line she had probably said 100 times in her life, the line she had polished smooth with repetition. "This is the one we don't talk about." She said it with a laugh, a casual insider laugh, like she was sharing a charming family anecdote, like it was endearing, like it was cute. Nora's face went still, not angry, still. The way a camera goes still before the shutter clicks. She looked at Patricia, then at me, then back at Patricia. "I am sorry." "What did you say?" Patricia doubled down. She always doubled down. Oh, it is just a family thing. Every family has one, right? The quiet one, the plain one. She waved her hand, the same dismissive wave I had been watching since I was 6. Nora did not laugh. She set down her coffee cup. Slowly, deliberately. The way someone does when they have decided something. My mother appeared at the end of the table. She had seen the stranger. Her territorial instinct kicked in before her courtesy did. "Who is your friend, Faith?" The word friend carried the weight of suspicion. I opened my mouth. Nora spoke first. "I will introduce myself in a moment, if that is all right. I would like to wait until everyone is listening." The air shifted. Something was about to happen that had never happened at a Mercer family reunion before. Nora leaned toward me. Low. Quiet. "May I show them?" I looked at her. "They will not care." "I am not asking if they will care. I am asking if you will let me." I looked across the yard. My father in his lawn chair under the oak. My mother at the dessert table, cutting a pie with the precision of someone who needs to control even the size of slices. Jolene taking photos with cousins. Patricia circulating, performing, working the crowd. 40 years of this. 34 of them with my name attached to the wrong story. I nodded. Once. Nora stood. She smoothed her blazer. She picked up her leather portfolio. And she walked to the main table with the confidence of someone who has addressed rooms full of strangers for a living. "Excuse me," she said. Not loud, not theatrical. Just clear enough that the people at the main table turned. "I know this is a family gathering, and I apologize for intruding, but may I have everyone's attention for just one moment?" The yard went quiet in layers. The main table first. Then the second table. Then the kids near the sprinkler. Someone turned down the Bluetooth speaker. 42 people turned their faces toward a woman they did not know. My mother's smile froze. Patricia set down her drink. Nora reached into her blazer pocket. She pulled out a business card. She held it between 2 fingers and handed it to my mother. "My name is Nora Whitfield. I am the senior features editor at American Preservation magazine." A pause. My mother looked at the card, turned it over, looked back up. "Nora, I drove 90 minutes to be here today, not for the reunion." And then she said the 7 words that rewrote 34 years of labels. "I am here because of her." Nora pointed at me, not a dramatic gesture, a simple extension of her arm, palm open, the way you identify someone in a lineup. Factual. Certain. The yard went silent. The kind of silence where you can hear ice shifting in a cooler 20 feet away. Nora opened her leather portfolio. She held up the first printed photograph. My restored courthouse in West Virginia, afternoon light catching the limestone facade. "This building was scheduled for demolition 3 years ago. Your daughter saved it. Her restoration won the State Preservation Award." She held up the second photo. The 1920s library in Pennsylvania, its arched windows gleaming. This was her first major project. She was 25. The town voted to name the reading room after her. A third photo. A white clapboard church in rural Ohio, steeple restored, stained glass cleaned and relit. The congregation wrote us 63 letters. 63 families asked us to feature the architect who saved their church. She set the photos on the table, spread them out so everyone could see. My mother stared at them like someone had placed foreign objects in front of her. Jolene's phone was on the table, face down. First time all day. Nora looked at my mother, then at Patricia, then at the rest of the family, table by table, face by face. Faith Mercer is one of the most important preservation architects working in America today. She has saved 11 buildings across 4 states. Her feature will run as our October cover story. She paused. Let the words land. "And she is your family. I assumed you knew." The politest devastation I have ever witnessed. 5 words. "I assumed you knew." Delivered without judgment, without malice, just pure, professional clarity. Patricia put down her drink. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. My mother recovered first. Instinct. Decades of controlling the family narrative had built a reflex that fired faster than honesty. Well, of course we knew. Her voice was bright. Too bright. The voice she used when the pastor came for dinner, or when a neighbor dropped off a casserole after my father's stroke. We have always been very proud. She smiled. The smile did not reach her eyes. It stopped somewhere around her cheekbones and stayed there, pinned in place like a corsage. I said nothing. I watched my mother lie to a room full of people who had watched her diminish me for 3 decades, and not one of them looked surprised. They were used to it. This was just a new version of the same performance. Aunt Patricia pivoted. I was just teasing earlier. Faith knows I adore her. She reached for my arm. I stepped back. Not dramatically, just enough that her hand closed on air. Jolene went defensive. Her default setting. I mean, we knew she did renovation stuff. She never really talked about it. She crossed her arms. The universal posture of someone rewriting history in real time. Nora said nothing. She stood with her portfolio under her arm and watched the family recalibrate. She had seen what she needed to see. At the second table, a cousin whispered something to her husband. Uncle Ray set down his plate. He was watching me. Not my mother, not Patricia, me, and then my father's niece. A 16-year-old named Samantha, who I had met exactly twice, walked over from the sprinkler, water dripping from her hair. She looked at the photos on the table, looked at me. Wait, Aunt Faith? A town named a room after you? I looked at her. I smiled, the first real smile of the day. They did. That is so cool. Simple, honest, and the contrast with every adult in that yard was devastating. My mother found me near the kitchen screen door. She had waited until the crowd thinned around the main table, until attention had scattered, until she could corner me without witnesses. She had been doing this my whole life, saving the worst conversations for private spaces where no one could verify what she said. Why would you do this? Her voice was low, controlled, the kind of controlled that is 1 degree away from breaking. Why would you bring a stranger to humiliate me? I did not bring her to humiliate anyone. She came because she thinks my work matters. Your work. She said it twice, as if repetition could drain the word of meaning. Your work. Do you know what I gave up so you could go to that school? I sacrificed everything for this family. There it was. The script she had been reciting for 35 years. The script that turned every conversation about my accomplishments into a monologue about her losses. You sacrificed your architecture program when you got pregnant with Jolene, I said. I know. I found your sketchbook. The color left her face. Not slowly, all at once, like someone had pulled a drain plug. She stared at me. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out for 3 full seconds. That is none of your business. You were talented, Mom. You were really talented. I kept my voice even. But that is not my fault. She could not respond to that. There was no script for it, no deflection, no victim narrative that could absorb the simple fact that her daughter had seen her talent, acknowledged it, and refused to apologize for inheriting it. My mother turned, walked to the bathroom. I heard the lock click. The woman who had spent 34 years making me invisible had just made herself disappear. I know what some of you are thinking. How does a mother resent her own child for following the same dream? But that is the thing about family patterns. They do not make sense from the outside. They only make sense to the people trapped inside them. If you are watching this and nodding, you understand. Stay with me. The hardest part is coming. Jolene found me on the porch. She was standing in the doorway, arms crossed, backlit by the kitchen fluorescents. She had a look on her face I recognized, the look of someone preparing to be reasonable while saying unreasonable things. You know, you could have just told us about your projects. I did. Thanksgiving. 2 years ago. You called it a hobby. She blinked. The memory was in there somewhere, buried under 2 years of quartz countertops and vacation homes, and the comfortable assumption that she was the important one. I did not know it was this big. That is the point, Jolene. You did not ask. She shifted her weight. Change tactics. Look, we are sisters. Can we not do this right now? Everyone is watching. Everyone has been watching my entire life. That is the problem. Her eyes went wet. Not from guilt, from embarrassment. Jolene had spent 36 years believing she was the center of the family story. The pretty one. The successful one. The one who deserved the main table and the framed photos and the fuss. She was not crying because she was sorry. She was crying because her position had been challenged in front of 40 people. "Why do you always have to make everything about you?" she said. I let the sentence hang in the air. Let everyone on the porch hear it. Let her hear what she just said to the sister who had spent 3 decades being no one. You had 36 years of everything being about you. I am having one afternoon. She stared at me, opened her mouth, closed it, turned and walked back inside. I stayed on the porch, listened to the screen door close, watched the fireflies start to blink in the yard. I breathed. Slow. Even. Aunt Patricia made her attempt 20 minutes later. Not with me. With Nora. She had spent those 20 minutes regrouping, reapplying her lipstick, rebuilding the performance. She walked up to Nora near the dessert table with her hostess smile reloaded. "So, Ms. Whitfield, what a lovely surprise. You know, I have always told Faith she was special. She is very talented." Nora was holding a plate with a slice of pie she had not touched. She looked at Patricia the way an editor looks at a manuscript that is not ready for publication. "Did you? Because about 20 minutes ago, you introduced her as the one you do not talk about." The sentence landed like a glass breaking in a quiet room. Patricia's face went red. Starting at the neck, climbing upward. I was joking. It is an inside joke. Every family has... Inside jokes usually make everyone laugh, Nora said. She did not smile. She did not raise her voice. She simply stated a fact and let it sit there. From across the yard, Uncle Ray's voice. Quiet. Final. 2 words. Pat. Sit down. The first time in 40 years of marriage that Ray had ever told Patricia what to do in public. She stared at him. He did not look away. She sat. For the first time at a Mercer family reunion, Aunt Patricia was silent. Not performing silence. Not strategic silence. The kind of silence that happens when you realize everyone in the room just saw who you really are. Other relatives shifted, looked at their plates. 2 of my cousins, women around my age who had grown up hearing the same labels, the same rankings, the same casual cruelty dressed up as family humor, stood from their chairs and walked over to where I was sitting. They did not say anything. They just sat near me. Close enough that I could feel the bench shift. I noticed. I did not comment. But I felt it. Nora was still standing. She had the floor, and she used it the way a good editor uses a page, with economy and precision. Several family members had gathered. Some pulled by curiosity, some by guilt, a few by genuine interest. The 16-year-old Samantha sat cross-legged on the grass in front of Nora like she was at a lecture she had chosen to attend. Nora showed more photos. A post office in eastern Kentucky, federal style, 1887, that the county wanted to bulldoze for a parking lot. Faith wrote the grant. Faith found the craftsman who could restore the original tin ceiling. The postmaster cried at the reopening, Nora said. He had worked there for 31 years. A 1-room schoolhouse in Tennessee, where Faith's team painstakingly restored the original 1905 windows, hand-blown glass, irreplaceable. She drove 200 miles each way for 8 months to supervise the glazier. Every weekend. A community center in rural Alabama. A neighborhood that could not afford an architect. Faith took the project pro bono. She said buildings do not get to choose their neighborhoods, and neighborhoods do not get to choose their buildings. The common thread, Nora said, setting down the last photo, is that Faith finds value in things other people have given up on. She did not look at my mother when she said it. She did not need to. The subtext crossed the yard on its own. My mother had re-emerged from the bathroom. She was standing in the kitchen doorway, arms at her sides, watching. Her face was unreadable. Or maybe I had just stopped trying to read it. Jolene was sitting at the main table, alone, phone face down. For the first time in as long as I could remember, she was not the center of anything. I sat at the kids' table, where I had always been. Except now, people were choosing to sit with me. The yard was splitting into factions the way yards do when something true has been said out loud. Some family members clustered near my mother, the aunts who had always orbited Diane, the cousins who had benefited from the hierarchy. Others drifted toward me, tentative, uncertain, like people approaching a building they had been told was condemned and were now discovering was sound. I sat alone for a few minutes. Let the conversations happen around me. I could hear fragments. Did you know about this? She never said anything. 11 buildings? A cover story? I thought about what I could do with this moment. I could stand up and walk to that main table. I could list every birthday that was combined, every photo I was cropped from, every hand-me-down dress, every time the word ugly was used as a label, a joke, a fact. I could lay out 34 years of evidence in front of 42 witnesses and make them feel exactly what I felt every single day of my childhood. But that is not who I built myself to be. I restore things. I do not demolish them. I made 2 decisions. I would talk to my father, and then I would leave. I found Nora near her car. Thank you for coming. I mean it. I did not do this for drama, she said. I did it because your work deserves to be seen. The magazine piece will run regardless of what your family thinks. I know. She handed me a folder. The formal layout proofs for the feature, annotated with her editor's notes. Look these over when you are ready. No rush. I took the folder, set it on the passenger seat of my car. Then I turned and walked back across the yard. Every eye followed me. Not because I was the ugly one, because I was the one who mattered. My father was still in his lawn chair under the oak tree. He had not moved during any of it. Not during Nora's reveal, not during my mother's performance, not during any of the conversations that followed. He sat with his hands on his cane and his eyes on the yard, watching his family the way he had always watched them. From the edge, with the expression of a man who wanted to speak, but had forgotten where he put his voice. His eyes were wet. I pulled a chair next to his, sat down, took his hand. The one with the slight curl from the stroke. I found the photos, Dad, in the study. The ones you took at my graduation. His chin trembled. He looked at the oak branches overhead, then back at me. 15 photos, I said. You took 15. 3 seconds of silence. Then, in a voice I had to lean close to hear. Should have been more. I reached into my back pocket, pulled out one of the graduation photos, the one of me at 22, beaming, holding my diploma, looking straight at the camera with a face that was not ugly, a face that was proud. And the folder, Dad, in your desk, 8 years of clippings. He squeezed my hand. The curl in his fingers tightened. I should have said something, he said. His voice caught. Should have fought harder. For you. You kept the receipts, Dad. I put the graduation photo in his hand. He held it the way you hold something fragile. Keep this one in the living room, not in a box. He looked at the photo, ran his thumb across the glossy surface, the image of his daughter at 22, on the day his wife took 1 photograph, and he took 15. He nodded. The same nod from the hospital doorway. Slow. Full of everything he never said. My mother came across the yard like weather. You could see her building. The set of her jaw, the locked elbows, the way her shoes hit the grass in hard, even strides. She had been in the bathroom. She had been in the doorway. She had been watching from the perimeter, waiting for the right moment to reclaim the stage. Faith Eleanor Mercer. Full name. The weapon of mothers who believe that naming you fully is the same as owning you. You come to my family reunion and you bring a stranger to humiliate me? I stood. My hands were at my sides. My voice was level. No one humiliated you, Mom. Nora came to talk about my work. Your work? She laughed. A short, bitter, cracking laugh. Everything you have, every opportunity, came because I raised you. I fed you. I clothed you. You clothed Jolene. You gave me what was left. I treated you all the same. She said it loud enough for the yard to hear. The biggest lie in the Mercer family canon, repeated so many times she had probably started to believe it. There are 3 photos of me on that wall, Mom. 14 of Jolene. You did not treat us the same. Her voice rose, shaking now. You were always so difficult, so sensitive, always making everything about yourself. I let the accusation pass through me like wind through an open window. I had heard it before, 1,000 times. It did not land anymore. I did not make myself the ugly one, Mom. You did. And you made sure everyone knew it. The yard was silent. 40 people heard it. Nobody moved. My mother's face crumpled, not into remorse, into self-pity. The tears came, but they were the tears of a woman who had been caught, not a woman who was sorry. After everything I have done for this family, after everything I have sacrificed, this is how you repay me. I am not repaying anything, I said. I am leaving. My voice had not risen. Not once. My mother was the one shaking. My mother was the one shouting, and I was standing still. I turned from my mother and walked across the yard. The grass was soft under my shoes. The light was amber now. That golden hour photographers love, the hour where everything looks kinder than it is. Nora was standing by her car. She handed me an envelope. The formal offer letter, cover feature, October issue. We will need you in New York for the photo shoot in September. I took the envelope, held it. Thank you, Nora, for everything. Thank your buildings, she said. They did the talking. I looked back at the yard one more time. Patricia was sitting in a lawn chair near the fence, alone, staring at nothing. Her visor was off. Without it, she looked smaller. Jolene was on the far side of the yard, texting, her back to everyone. My mother was being attended to by 2 aunts who were performing concern the way they had performed everything, loudly, publicly, without substance. Uncle Ray caught my eye from across the grass. He nodded. The same steady nod my father gave. The nod of a man who should have spoken up years ago and knew it. Samantha, the 16-year-old who had asked about the reading room, came running over. She was out of breath. Aunt Faith? Can I come see one of the buildings sometime? Like, visit one? I looked at her. Wet hair, bare feet, eyes that were wide and uncomplicated in a way that adults lose. Anytime, I said. I will give you the tour myself. She hugged me, brief, fierce, the kind of hug that has no agenda. Then she turned and ran back to the sprinkler. I looked at the ground near the main table. Nora's business card, the one she had handed my mother, was lying in the grass. No one had picked it up. I walked past it. Some things are worth restoring, and some things you let go. I got in my car, set the envelope with the offer letter on the passenger seat next to the layout proofs. On top of them, I placed the graduation photo, a copy my father insisted I keep. One for me, one for you, he had said. A pact between 2 quiet people. I pulled out of the gravel driveway. I did not look in the rearview mirror. The highway unfolded ahead of me, straight and long and empty in the way that only summer highways in the early evening can be. I drove with the windows down. I did not turn on the radio. The wind was enough. The silence was enough. 50 miles in, my phone buzzed. A text from my father. 2 words. Proud. Always. I pulled over onto the shoulder. Read it twice. The screen blurred for a moment and I realized my eyes were wet. I wiped them with the back of my hand, put the phone in the cup holder, and kept driving. I spent 34 years trying to prove I was worth seeing. Turns out I did not need to prove anything. I just needed to stop looking for the proof in the wrong place. Around mile 90, I passed a building on the side of the highway. An old gas station, boarded up, vines crawling the roof, weeds splitting the concrete pad. The kind of building most people drive past without a second glance. I slowed, looked at it, studied the roofline, the window frames, the bones underneath the neglect. I smiled. That one might be worth saving. I kept driving. 3 months later, the October issue landed. My face was on the cover, the face my family called ugly for 34 years, on the cover of a national architecture magazine. I was photographed standing in front of the restored courthouse in West Virginia. Not smiling, not posing, just standing with my arms at my sides, looking straight into the camera the way my father taught me to stand. Steady, present, accounted for. My father framed the cover. He hung it on the living room wall, next to Jolene's high school graduation photo. My mother did not take it down. She did not acknowledge it either. It just hung there, a quiet fact in a house that had spent decades avoiding facts about me. Jolene texted once. "Saw the magazine, congratulations." I replied, "Thank you." Nothing more. Aunt Patricia had not spoken to me since the reunion. Uncle Ray sent a letter, handwritten, on lined paper from a legal pad. Should have said something years ago. Sorry does not cover it, but it is all I have. I folded the letter, put it in my desk drawer, next to my father's folder. My mother did not call, not once. I did not wait by the phone. That Thanksgiving, I did not drive to my parents' house. Instead, I drove to the gas station I had spotted on the highway. I walked the property, measured the walls, photographed every angle. I submitted a restoration proposal to the county the following Monday. Pro bono, community space. A building no one was looking at, in a place everyone drove past. I knew something about that. My studio, late afternoon. The light coming through the windows was the same amber as that evening at the reunion, and I let it sit on my desk without turning on the overhead. The shoebox was still there. The same shoebox from college, now held together with packing tape at one corner. Inside, the photos I took of myself when no one else would. My first apartment, my first drafting table, the day I passed my licensing exam. All taken with disposable cameras, the yellow Kodak kind. I added 2 new photographs, the magazine cover, and the before photo of the gas station. Then I added one more. The photo of me at 10 years old, behind the plant, in the hand-me-down dress, the one I slipped from the album at the reunion. I held it up. Small girl, big plant, no one looking at her. I held up the cover. 34-year-old woman, standing alone, everyone looking at her. Same girl, I said to the empty room. Same girl. I placed the photos side by side in the shoebox, closed the lid, set it on the shelf above my desk where my drafting tools used to sit. Some people keep trophies. I keep proof that I was here. Here is what I know now. You cannot restore a family that does not want to be fixed, but you can build a life that does not need their approval to stand. Every building I have ever saved started the same way. Someone looked at it and said it was worthless. And then, someone else looked closer, saw the bones, saw the craft, saw what it could become if someone just cared enough to try. I was never the ugly one. I was just in the wrong room. That is my story. 34 years of labels, one stranger with a business card, and a shoebox full of proof that I was always worth seeing. If this story reminded you of your own family, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment, hit subscribe. I will see you in the next one.